Good morning, Pablo. How are you today?
Good morning, John. Very well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Great to hear. And thank you very much for giving us some of your time, that CTO News Thursday, to really speak with you, to learn more about your career stemming back in Argentina, back in, I believe, 1997, as you were a software developer. And yeah, it'd be great just to learn about your career from there to where you are today as CTO at EG Plus Worldwide. And it'll be great to understand how you've got there and some of the interesting activities and areas of technology that you've been involved with. So to begin with, can I hand over to you, please, to formally introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, John. It was really nice to talk to you this morning. Yeah, as you say, I started my career in Argentina right from uni as a computer science engineer. And I started working for the university in the first place. And then from that, I moved to Portugal and worked in many industries there, from consultancy, finance, and even the government institutions in Portugal. And in 2014, I had an opportunity to come to London to expand my career in other areas that I didn't have experience before, including the music industry, which was a new thing for me and very cool and shiny thing and very cool projects there. So I came to London and I went from partnership management and program management into my current company. I started in 2016 as a director of technology to build up from the ground up an engineering practice. Then the pandemic hit. I went to another company coincidentally in the same period. And then when the pandemic finished, my previous boss at EG Plus left, and I got called back and offered the role of CTO, which is where I am now, continuing the mission that I had when I joined in 2016.
Absolutely. Brilliant. If you don't mind me asking, how was COVID for you? How was that period of whether it be work or hybrid working for you?
It was um, it was okay, I think. In the industry, in the engineering industry, in software development, we always had some level of hybrid remote. We had talent all over the place, so it was very common for us to be always with people that were not 100% on the office all the time. So the transition was quite smooth. I think the worst thing, as everybody, was to struggle with the whole life of being in lockdown, right? So it's no mental health was a challenge for everybody, that we couldn't connect with each other. But it was in terms of professional work, it was fine. Actually, our productivity went up, not down during the COVID time.
Yeah. You're not the first to have said that actually, as a technology leader, seeing productivity increase during COVID. And yeah, it just
Yeah,
shows that, in those types of environments and scenarios, you do get the best out of individuals, individuals' work. Excellent.
yeah.
So to begin with, then, can I ask, how does your distinction between being a tech business oriented individual rather than an IT infrastructure person influence your approach as a CTO?
That's a very good question, John. I think the approach of technology in from a CTO point of view is always to support the business and to leapfrog the business forwards. While IT has always been the basic needs, infrastructure needs that the business has on IT. I differentiate IT as the infrastructure, and the base level of information technology and that we need to have to operate, while technology, or as a broader term, is more of what the business needs to move away from the competition forwards. And so that's what, for me, a CTO is much more connected to the business goals, and much more aligned to the strategic goals of the business than an IT organization. That doesn't mean that in many organizations, CIOs, which normally they lead the IT organization, are not aligned with the business. They definitely are, and definitely sometimes include what the traditional role of a CTO does. Depending on the industry and depending on the maturity of the companies, you might have a CIO that also acts as a CTO. So those terms in the industry are very interchangeable in terms of roles. But for me, I differentiate the CTO as a much more business-focused, strategic, goals-focused role than the CIO, pure CIO, IT infrastructure that is focused on the basic infrastructure needed to operate.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you there. I remember many years ago, there was discussions with regards to business and IT alignment, and you had a number of technology leaders trying to straddle that sort of environment, whether it be writing documents or, creating that space within their organizations. And it's just, from your explanation and from the way that, the industry sort of developed, it's a clear distinction between IT absolutely being the foundations of an organization, whether it be the network, the switches, the endpoints, the devices needed to operate within the business, versus the technology that's required to, as you said, get that competitive advantage. There's a lot of discussions around AI. There's a lot of discussions around machine learning. So it's how do you leverage those types of cutting edge technologies to really accelerate and improve your offering to your customers. So 100% agree with you. And once again, that's in line with what a lot of the technology leaders have said and expressed to me in previous discussions I've had. Brilliant.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
Yeah. So can you describe how your experience as an engineer and developer has shaped your leadership and decision making in tech-driven business environments?
Uh, yeah. Engineer mentality is based in empirical information, and that's what we are in my peers and my colleagues and my teams. We're all come from that empirical, rational way of seeing things and how we approach even business. And you can apply engineering principles to mostly everything, but it's a lens, right? So you have to. I see myself as the person that brings that lens and that POV to the business from a rational, empirical point of view and pragmatic, while the business might have a different view, and you need both. You might need an empirical way of seeing it, a strategic way of thinking, and maybe a much more profitable focus point of view that you need to marry it all together to get a proper action into the business. Engineering is about building things. It's about building things that make an impact. The engineer part of me always looks at the problem and thinks, how I get to solve that problem? How do I get from where we are now to solve that problem? Where a business person might think, oh, I just want to reach this goal. I just don't know how. So from the engineering point of view, that's what I see the perspective comes is how that we bring into the conversation from the point of view of delivering something that needs to be built from the ground up
Brilliant.
or build up.
Sure, absolutely. Now, if you don't mind me asking, from the how do you then revert back to the why and the what? And at what stage would you get involved in those discussions and those areas of understanding to then, whether it be, decide on how you'd go about developing a system or application?
That is very important. The why needs to be is your guiding principle, right? The why and the what you're building. The what is part of the why and the how, right? Is what is the product, what are you building? But the why is always your goal, your guiding principle, and you have to have it stapled right up the wall in every single step that you're doing when you're building something, because that's the motivation and it's the guiding principle that you have on every single piece of the components that you're building. And you're aiming for something. And also it will tell you if you succeeded on building the thing that you needed to build or no, right? That's why the why is so important. When you get involved is at the beginning, when you're conceptualizing the why. as a CTO, you have to be there in the conversation on when the why is being discussed, because sometimes the whys are not possible or the whys are not the right whys. So if you're there in the conversation at the beginning, having the conversation with the business, and that's why the role of the CTO is much more outward facing as much as it's inward facing to the business and connecting with stakeholders that are not technical. It's so important to have that sense of the purpose of what we're trying to achieve as an organization. So the sooner the CTO is involved in those discussions, the better. I think it should be right at the beginning. It should be part of the discussion, even finding out the whys together.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so how does your working in advertising, i.e. the advertising sector, differ from your previous tech-faced roles, i.e. in Argentina and in Portugal?
Every role is different. Advertising, in particular, is different because it has a cool factor, right? If you look at it from outside, before I went into advertising, you look at advertising as the cool factor that you're working with media, you're working with cool outputs, you're working with fun outputs, right? You're not working with stuff that some people might consider that it's very visual, right? So you're actually building stuff that is visual. So from that aspect, it's quite enticing. On the other hand, it's surprisingly to me when I came into advertising, it was quite traditional in the way that we approach things in advertising. It's quite traditionally quite the thing about advertising, it sells very well. That is forefront, is out there, is very edgy. But that's the output of advertising. The way that we work is very much traditional from the inception of advertising in the 40s and the 50s. Well, actually before, but in the 40s and 50s, they became much more mature. So I would say that was the biggest surprise. The level of investment in technology is similar to other industries that are not tech focused, except finance. I would say finance has a lot. Well, obviously they put a lot of investment on technology. Where in advertising, I think we're running behind, and now we can see that with the advent of Gen AI, that doesn't come from the advertising industry. It came from from the tech industry that is disrupting our own business. So you don't have massive investments in technologies like that from the industry itself. It comes from outside the industry in. And that was a bit surprising when I came into advertising. In other sectors that I work in Argentina and Portugal, every role and every market and every sector is different. It's also the culture in that I will say is very different between the three countries that I work on. The work culture changes a lot, and also I would say London is amazing because it's where things really happen in tech. If you want to be at the forefront, you don't have many markets that you can get that access to the latest and the greatest. And in Europe, definitely London is the best place to be. Right.
I would back to that as well. So thank you for sharing, and I agree with you 100%. Absolutely. Okay, it's very interesting actually what you shared there, because my sort of lens into your sector, I would have thought that a lot of advertising agencies would want to differentiate themselves using technology that they have built internally, i.e. we have developed this application or system to serve a particular purpose that differentiates us from other players in the sector. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So we build a lot of technology. We just don't build it in with the same. It's not that it's typically they're not products that you can go and buy. Something that augment our services,
Right.
and they come with the advertising services, and that's why it supports the business. But we build a lot of technology. It's just that it's not like industry wide sector revolutionary technology. Those technologies come like the examples that I gave you, like Gen AI. It didn't came from the advertising industry, but the advertising industry and the marketing industry was one of the first ones to be impacted by it.
Yeah.
And that is a massive shift because it's actually revolutionizing the way that we work, but it's from outside in. Um, if you heard, there is a nice video on YouTube that I recommend everybody to watch. It's a TED Talk from a guy that worked for Apple under Steve Jobs and other companies. And that is called I think it's Guy Kawasaki.
Yeah.
He talks about innovation and he talks about how the evolution of the ice producing industry has evolved in ice 1.0, ice 2.0, and ice 3.0, and he explains that innovation, as a good that he's an example, innovation has always come from outside industries that are actually doing it
Yeah.
because the purpose of the innovation is seeing revisiting how you achieve the goals. So if your mission is not what the impact of what you're offering, and is the how, but not the why. Going back to our questions, then you're always going to be focusing on how I improve the how instead of focusing in is there a better way to do the why. And when you do that, then you can actually think in a different ways to achieve the same goal and then build a completely different way of delivering that. That's what Gen AI is doing to us now, is basically saying, you don't need to do this with artists. You don't do this with uh, uh, recording voices. You can do this with technology. And it's changing the way that we can deliver the same output or a better output.
Absolutely. It's absolutely focusing on the why and seeing how that can deliver, as you said, the better outputs that's needed in organizations. Brilliant. Okay. In your view, how should technology drive business value, and what are the key metrics to assess this impact?
Ooh. I would say the obvious one is revenue, right? Is if technology is making an impact on the bottom line, it's a good thing. If it's not a good thing. There are other metrics that you want to look at. If it's making a good impact into the business, it's making more. Um, um, if it's for instance, if it has a good impact in sustainability on how you're impacting the world, then technology is for good and it should be invested on. Um, it really depends on what the business strategy is and what you're trying to achieve and the company as a whole trying to achieve. If those goals are there, then you can always measure what are those goals going to be considered successes, and then measure where you are today and what the impact of technology is having to move those needles into those directions. I think is better not to limit to a specific one. I say revenue at the beginning because in advertising everything is about revenue. So everything we do, it has to be either billable, it needs to be generating new business, it needs to be we're very revenue focused. It's a service industry. But in as a whole, as a leader, you need to focus on what is the goal of the business and what is the goal of the organization and how you can impact that goal into getting closer to that. So for each initiative, you need to define the metrics yourself. You mean within the organization and what is important for the organization at that particular time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. All right. So, as we know, with the current hype around AI, do you think companies are using it as a tick box, or are they truly leveraging it with regards to long-term business benefits?
We cannot have a conversation without AI today, can we?
I
it's,
know.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
um, I say, well, I would remiss it if I didn't say that it's creating a big impact. I mentioned that before. I think it's aligning with business goals and as you say with the consequences. I think there are two aspects of this. First of all, we're still adopting not generative AI, but just AI as a tool using the data that we have and evolving the data that we have to get AI insights so that we can make better decisions. That is something that we still are working on it. And on top of that, we just got this new stuff, which is generative AI, that it actually can generate new content. It's not it's not being used just to infer decision or influence decision making. Is actually creating content. And in a creation content service industry, this is a massive impact. Now, I will say, and we need to be careful here because there is a lot of hype with any new piece of technology. It happened a few years back, if you remember, with the metaverse.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about Gen AI, and there are massive differences between the two. Gen AI is here to stay. Metaverse, not so sure. But you remember the hype. Remember that everybody turned their attention to it, and very quickly it went away. You have the typical curve of adoption of technology, and it was quite fast that we went back into the disillusionment on metaverse. But in Gen AI, I think we're not plateauing. I think we're plateauing in the outputs. It still is improving, and it's going to get really quickly. It's going to get to stuff that is the quality is going to be there, because at the beginning and where we are today, the quality is still somewhat questionable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you still need humans to check, humans to validate. The human in the loop has always been a component that we have embedded that into the processes with Gen AI everywhere we go, because you cannot trust it. You cannot trust it today to do it all by itself. Eventually, and according to what other leaders and famous people are saying, this will happen in the next 5 years, where it's going to be better than what humans can produce. I don't know what the impact to the industries, not just advertising, but every industry will be, and the economy in the wider context of things, because it will make jobs redundant very, very quickly. I don't know how we're going to adapt to that quickly, or the potential of that. But right now, I see either companies taking it very seriously and adopting it in specific channels or in specific use cases. But what I see a lot is proof of concepts. I see a lot of companies, including ours, testing it and trying to implement in specific use cases, so we can see how we can leverage that for specific parts of the business. It's going to get to a point that it's going to be in every single end-to-end aspect of our lives, and that is quite scary, because it might be it might be a big revolution on how we do things. Today, I think some companies are using it just to tick a box to say that we do it, and in advertising, that's very common, just to say to our clients that we're doing it. In our case, we are not just ticking a box. We are putting in proof of concept cases. We're running with the clients together in partnership to try to see how this technology can affect and get better outputs for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you know, it's very interesting, and thanks for sharing your sort of intake on that. The conversations I've had with other technology leaders, they have shared that, so say for example, some are discussing the workloads involved in the AI space in terms of understanding what workloads should get precedence with regards to the amount of energy that is needed in the data centers to power those workloads, because ultimately a cost is going to be factored back up to the sponsor of those workloads at some stage. So the question is, are organizations, even though they'd like to use AI, are they selecting the right use case, and do they understand the implications of managing that use case? Should it go live and actually be implemented within an organization that requires a lot of power? So say for example, in some data centers, like say for example NVIDIA chips, 1 kilowatt, an NVIDIA chip generates a 5 kilowatt of energy. And within a data centers, you've got, as an example, 100,000 kilowatts of energy that's powering AI workloads, as an example. But then what sits behind that is the cooling element. So how are these data centers being able to cool themselves? And the amount of water that's needed to cool these data centers are not coming. I don't think, obviously it has been thought about, but the considerations hasn't really sort of funneled back up the chain to the actual workload that's required to be developed, to be delivered as a use case or a POC or a way of working in these organizations. And I think there is going to be a watershed moment, if I can say that, with regards to what types of applications and systems using AI gets the go ahead versus the cost and the potential impact on operating that environment.
Yeah, John, I completely agree, and I will say I will add to that there is an environmental impact as well that
Yeah.
we are yet to understand. So there are big bets going on in the market, right? We know what is going on these days and how we're building for this. I think there are two aspects of this. It's not just the cost. We also haven't figured out what the revenue model is when we replace the current cost of doing stuff by humans, which is a hard cost by humans and machines, but what is a hard cost in the service industry like mine, and we move into using just technology. Is the level of conversation that we have constantly about what is the revenue model, what is the charge model, because we are in a transactional business. We currently the way that we sell our services is by hour, by human hour, by time. Think of a lawyer. A lawyer charges you for an hour, right? How you will charge a service that is technology based or technology plus human? How you charge that? Because the client will say, "Oh, well, but you're using ChatGPT for this or using an LLM for this, and we're not going to pay for that. You're paying a subscription that is a sunken cost, like what you have today with other IT software, right? We don't charge the cost of directly to our clients the cost of using Microsoft 365 or Office 365 is part of our business, right? So it's part of our base cost. And if this technology comes with a much higher cost threshold because of the costs to run this technology that you're saying is significantly high, then how that will impact the end of the funnel. And I don't think we have any answers yet. I don't think we have seen the impact of that. And if we're not able to build business models around this cost, revenue, change, I think the adoption of these solutions might struggle. But when there is a way and there is a will, there is a way, right? So I think there is going to be a point that either it becomes like any other industry with scale, it becomes cheaper. The US with the election this week is thinking of putting a lot of investment into energy for specifically this purpose, and there is an idea to don't worry about renewables. Go with whatever you can use to generate energy. And tech companies are building now. They're planning on building small-scale nuclear reactors to power these data centers. So it's that the whole industry is reacting to this need, and we'll see how at the end of the day that will cost the users of that technology.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, saying that, and your reference to the elections today, also the elections results that's obviously come in. I think I was watching the news this morning, and I saw that outside Donald Trump's home, there was a robotic dog that was being used as a form of security, and I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, where else are we, where
That
else
gives
are
me
we, yeah, where else are we?
that gives me memories of Dark Mirror. You saw that episode of Dark Mirror where there is I think there is a hunter dog that is
Yeah,
chasing the actor. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah.
getting there. Yeah,
And you know, it's just one of those things. I guess we have to get used to seeing such uses of technology,
yeah.
and just wonder. Excellent. Okay. Okay. So Pablo, does EG Plus Worldwide rely on proprietary technology, custom platforms, SaaS solutions, or a combine of these to deliver the content production services across multiple channels for your clients?
Yeah, that's obviously we have we have a big ecosystem of technology, including check all of those. We build our own products. We have our own custom platforms. We have our own custom tools that we use internally for automation and stuff like that. And we use a lot of SaaS solutions as well. In the creative industry, you cannot go around without meeting anybody that is using technologies like Adobe or Autodesks or NVIDIA technologies. We use them all. It's a big advertising business, so we are we're very proficient in all of them. On the proprietary tech, that's our secret sauce. That's where I like to be. That's where we build stuff that nobody else have, and that's where we have a bunch of technology that is really powerful in terms of data management, like Omni, which is our proprietary data technology across all Omnicom. We have automation technology, and we also have client-facing technology that we offer as a SaaS. It looks and feels and works as another SaaS that you can buy, but you can only get through our services. So it's a complex ecosystem of integrated solutions that all provide a simple goal, which is more efficiency to our clients, faster, better, cheaper solutions and production services.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Great to hear. And I think, from what you shared, that sort of art of the possible in terms of providing that, whether it be differentiated in the market, absolutely does mean you have to incorporate all those various types of platforms and systems, proprietary, custom, SaaS, etc. So that's what gives you the opportunity to really, move forward. So yeah, great to understand and learn more. Okay, so how do you balance the need for collaboration with leadership style with both demanding and focus on giving autonomy to your teams? So how are you sort of looking at using your leadership approach to both, whether it be give your teams the autonomy to deliver quality work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Obviously, every organization and no organization works as a democracy that everybody votes on every single decision. There is hierarchies, change of commands, flatter or taller. They're always there, and somebody's making decisions. I think that I surround myself with a team that is very capable and I can trust. Trust is a key component of this, and I leave them to execute the way that they think is better. So we normally agreed on the direction. We define the direction. We define the strategy. We define the goals, and then each of the leads in my teams, they decide how they want to implement that and get there. And because we are all aligned with trust, I know that they're going to do it in the best possible way with the resources that we have, obviously. I think there is a lot of focus that you need to put as a leader in internal culture, and I'm talking about downwards management now, but it's also relevant to collaborating with your peers. So downward, I think it's important to understand their needs and understand what your teams are trying to achieve themselves, and also listen to them, because sometimes, more often than not, actually, good ideas come from the teams that are actually there in the ground doing stuff. So if you ignore those, that is a bad business choice. You have to pick and choose which ones are aligned with the business goals, but there are ideas. They need to be part of the on the solution that you're trying to build. So that's why I leave my teams, my managers, to choose how they want to operate in a way that is conductive with the rest of the company, aligned with the culture, values, and the business goals that we have. Now, in terms of collaborating with other pieces of the business that are not tech, that is always there is a focus there on understanding and bridging up the language barriers. Because if you're talking with an engineer, you know how boring we can get very quickly to others that are not engineers, but how interested we are with each other. So changing the tone, changing the language, and changing the way that you communicate is key to ensure that the collaboration happens across the business. You need to understand what the goals are, and they need to understand what your goals are. So it's a two-way street that you have to build. Again, all of it is based on that trust, and that trust needs to exist at all levels of the organization.
Brilliant. Absolutely, I understand and agree. Surrounding yourself with a capable team and trusting them is at the core of ensuring that, your agenda gets delivered and, you're not spending your time, what's keeping you awake at night. I'm not sure if my team's going to be able to deliver, the time, the sort of the work on time with the best quality and, on budget as been outlined. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. Brilliant.
I will add that you don't hire smart people to tell them what to do, right? You just hire smart people to tell you what to do and to help you get to where you want to be. So if you hire smart people, you need to listen to them. You cannot just direct them.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Okay, so what strategies do you use to build high-performing teams, especially when resources are tied to revenue and there is a need to maximize efficiency?
Oof, that's a tough one. As an engineer myself, coming from software development, I understood very early that everybody ticks in a different way, particularly engineers. Everybody has a different motivation, and we go into this profession. We choose this career for different reasons. Sometimes it's because we heard that it's going to make us rich, which is completely untrue, or you want to make an impact, or you want to build something, and you enjoy building things, and that's what drives you. So understanding what drives each individual is important to maximize their performance. Everybody has a different driver. You need just to listen and understand what the driver is, and then use that to give them what they need to perform better. There is an alignment, right? So it's an alignment in the team on finding people that believe in the same principles as you as well. So if you have a team that believes in quality, believes in speed, believes in getting stuff done, you have a team that is aligned to those values. If you have a team that is focused on perfection, then you have a team focused on those values, and you might take longer to build anything, but it will be perfect when it comes out. So it depends on also what type of leader and what type of product you're building, what type of output you're building. In my case, I'm a balance. I need to be balanced because resources are limited. Time is one of the most limited resources that we have. So we need to focus very clearly on what do we need to build, how better it is, how good it needs to be. And we constantly do everything. Everything we will with an MVP, MMP, and MLP mentality, right? Minimum viable product, minimum marketable product, minimum lovable product. So everything has an evolution. Every single piece, even every single feature, we build it with this mentality because we want to build something. We also want to test it that is actually creating the impact that we want. And sometimes it just stays as an MVP because it was enough. And sometimes we have better things to do. So that relentless focus on ensuring that we're building the right thing, the most valuable thing at any point in time, that is something that needs to be embedded in everybody in the team. Everybody needs to be focused in that, because one of the things that I found throughout my career is that context switching. Engineers don't like to do that. The moment that you get a call from your boss, from your team manager to say, "Oh, well, stop what you're doing now. You need to jump into this because a client complained or there is a problem in production," or whatever that is something that actually I don't think anybody enjoys. But sometimes it's the needs of the business. So we build everything with that laser focus to try to accomplish that goal and be ready for the next one. And the whole team is aligned with that, so it doesn't make any negative impact to the individual that is working on something, because he knows that whatever they start, they will be able to finish, they will be able to ship it, and that is a big motivator for engineers.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you for articulating it. And to follow up with that, I think, from my sort of observations and going to my next question, what then would you say are the advantages that you've seen from moving from a Scrum development approach to a Kanban methodology, and how has this impacted your team's ability to deliver?
That is very connected to what we discussed and a very good follow up. I am a big proponent of any agile methodology, and I know that there are a lot of detractors, but I'm still on that bandwagon. Obviously, I started like most of us in Scrum. Big proponent of doing Scrum by the book. And when I hire my head of delivery now, he came with ideas from other industries to try other things because we were actually struggling with accomplishing sprint goals and accomplishing every single piece of delivery that we wanted. So it was quite frustrating as well. It was clearly not working, and we tried very hard to, right? So he came with the idea to shift to Kanban. And obviously, as I said, I like people, if I hire smart people, I let them the autonomy to do the changes that we need to adopt. And he changed it to Kanban. It was really, really impactful in the way that we deliver. Because first, we're not focused on a goal, on a sprint goal anymore. We're just focused on the cadence, on the flow, on making sure that we keep going and we keep delivering so we keep doing stuff. The biggest impact that I can tell is that we went from one release a month to one release a week now, on sometimes 2 or 3 releases a week.
Yeah.
So we are much more feature focused and much more impactful focused, and we create we also have a lot of ability to shift and to change priorities when we need to, because we have those checkpoints everywhere. So if anything comes into our plate, even if it's not urgent, we can make it urgent and make a big impact. And I can tell you, the way that we build relationships with clients, that is a massive differentiator. When a client comes to us and say, "Oh, we have this request or this thing, it would be a good idea," and we come together as a team and we think, "Oh, actually, that's a very good idea. We should do it. Let's just flash build it now." And in 2 days, we can go back to the client and say, "Here it is. It's working for you. What do you think?" That is a massive impact because everybody's used that technology takes a long time. So we can pick and choose some things that can make a massive impact, even small things that we can build in a heartbeat. When we were in Scrum, or worse, if you're in Waterfall, then still it's strict. You cannot change direction until you finish the sprint if you want to keep that focus for longer. So being focused in a feature for whatever that feature takes, instead of being focused just on an arbitrary period of 2 weeks, is a massive differentiator for us. And it has caused a lot of improvement in motivation for the engineers because they're not rushing for those 2 weeks. And I can tell you, everybody that runs Scrum, the last 2 days of the sprint are always chaos and nobody wants them. So everybody gets anxious every 2 weeks for 2 days, for half a week. It's not conducive to productivity. That.
No, not at all, not at all. You want your team absolutely in the flow of their work, not feeling pressured or sort of not being able to express themselves really, which is not good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So how do you then maintain discipline in keeping the tech roadmap evolving, especially when the roadmap is larger than the product and the focus is on short to midterm goals?
We have so many discussions about roadmap and changing priorities and all these creeping things that get into the way. Advertising is very fluid, so we constantly change in direction. I call it rabbit chasing. So every time that a new client comes along or a new feature comes along, it's like a rabbit, and we just rush into it. And the halfway there, we need to rush into another rabbit. So it's that dynamism that always plays against a big backlog. I have great care of my large backlog. I love it. It's my list of ideas that we always gonna get there,
Yeah,
or we might not. But you need to be critical as well. We have a massive backlog of features that we wanted to put in our products.
yeah,
But those features have been there for a long time. So sometimes our features that are going to become stale, and if they're not there in the product already, it's because they are not needed. So sometimes you need to be critical. You need to put them out of the misery and just remove them from the backlog, or put them in a way in a place that you don't see them, and keep the backlog slim for the team to get motivated that they're getting progress done. So you keep it for yourself, but not everybody needs to get access to see the mountain of stuff that they want to do. So that's an important thing. You don't need to have all engineers, all developers, all QAs, all DevOps seeing a backlog of thousands of features that we want to build that they're never going to get, because it's just basically putting a Everest mountain in front of them, and they just want the next step. But the thing is that you need to always focus on the next few steps, because what you're looking at is the next floor, and then the next floor, and then the next story. So it's important that you always look not at just a step, but the next floor, and then revisit your strategy every single step that you take. It's not conductive to have a roadmap of features that on 3 years times, because in 3 years the industry is going to change so much, the tools that are coming into the business are going to change so much, the strategy is going to change so much, the needs are going to change so much, that it's just a waste. And anybody that believes in Agile is against waste. So you need to have an idea, high level idea where you want to go, but you always need to keep it yourself flexible to be able to change and to pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree with you as well. Your initial analogy, which is try not to chase rabbits, when dealing with large backlogs, because ultimately, it's like in essence, you will end up on that hamster wheel, and you'll just be trying to run as fast as you can, trying to get the work done, but you're treading water. You're not really sort of reducing a backlog ultimately. So yeah, you have to be very, very strategic in planning what or how you approach dealing with the backlog, as you just shared. So thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah, trying to do everything normally conducts to not achieving anything.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Pablo, my final question is, how do you manage the integration of offshore contractors with your in-house team, ensuring that both full-time employees and contractors are aligned to the company's goals and culture?
That's a very good question, and it has a very easy answer. For us, if you're a contractor or a full-time employee, it doesn't matter. You're part of the team. So you're
Nice.
treated the same way as everybody else. A contractor is just a way of getting somebody in the team that is a freelance that we cannot get for whatever reason as a full-time employee, or because it doesn't matter. But we have both. Um, the way that we treat our people, offshore contractors or full-time employees, they are all part of the same team. They have the same level of involvement in the process, and yeah, it doesn't matter how you get paid. Basically, that's just a hygienic or a process factor, not a change. I will say though, in my experience working with contractors in the past, not in the current team, but in the past, you get contractors that are quite detached and they're quite uncommitted, because there are, I don't know if they still happen, but there are contractors that are thinking, oh, I need to get is this a 6-month contract? I need to chase my next one in 2 months, so I'm not going to be committed on the long term. I'm just going to do my job and just move on. That plays against themselves, because it's our contractors stay longer with us because they don't feel that way. They feel that they are here for the long run. That being contractors or full FTEs are not making any difference. Although clearly it could happen, right? The company can decide at any point in time to remove contractors from the roster. So it's something that it doesn't matter for the day to day. It doesn't matter. Everybody feels part of the same team, and there is a strong culture of trust, built on trust, that we have across everybody in the team.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. And that's great to hear. And those are the sorts of organizations that we like to work with here at IT Labs, those organizations who treat FTEs and contractors as part of the same. We, in fact, follow the Ray Dalio principle, which is based on mediocrity and ensuring that, everyone gets a fair shout in essence. So, that's great to hear. Brilliant. So it's been absolutely fantastic speaking with you, Pablo, this morning or this afternoon, should I say. I think it's been great to learn more about your journey from back in '97 when you started out as a software developer, and understanding sort of your use with regards to technology and cutting edge IT, i.e. looking at, whether it be business oriented tech versus whether it be infrastructure oriented tech, and understanding where you sit on that fence. Also, great to learn about your experience as an engineer. Obviously, when we then talked about EG Plus Worldwide and your focus on building products, it's great to learn more about your imperial way of thinking as you've shared, and also just to understand more about your organization. Thanks for referencing in terms of your sector with regards to building ads, that you build things visually, and it all comes down to the level of IT investment, culture difference. And thanks for referencing the TED Talk individual Guy Kawasaki. Also, thank you for sharing in terms of key metrics that you focus on that drive value within the business. For you, it's revenue, but it could be other factors in an organization. And also great to hear about, how AI is sort of aligned in your sector and business with regards to looking at just AI or generative AI, which is, as you suggested in our talk, plateauing. Also, yeah, great to hear that you use a multifaceted approach to technology, whether it be SaaS-based proprietary technology or custom development, to ensure that you continue that competitive advantage in the marketplace. And thank you for sharing as well your leadership style, which is based on surrounding yourself with a capable team and building trust and relying on that trust to help you deliver your agenda. And from what you shared as well, it's obviously it's very, very important to understand what drives your team to ensure that they're happy. And also, thanks for sharing how you've moved from a Scrum-based environment to a Kanban-based environment, where you're focusing more on cadence and flow. And as you shared, you're releasing one, whether it be you were making one release per month, and you're now at a stage where you're able to release 3 times a week, which is very, very exciting, and you should be congratulated as well for that. And yeah, thanks once again for sharing about not chasing rabbits when dealing with backlog, and really trying to understand how to better prioritize for that environment. And finally, it's great to learn and hear that you treat FTEs and contractors as part of the team, which is a really, really great approach to ensuring synergy, efficiency, and productivity within your department. So thank you, Pablo. It's been absolutely fascinating speaking with you. And let me hand over to you, please.
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you for having me. It was really a nice conversation today, and I hope that it's informative to others. And yes, thank you very much for having me. It was a blast.
Brilliant. Thank you.